You're sitting? Yeah? Okay. Great. We have a lot of questions, so we're going to kick right in.
Yes.
Tenemos muchas preguntas a través del Slido, pero como antes, si quieren ustedes formular una pregunta, por favor, alcen la mano y les daremos el micrófono. Pero empezamos con las preguntas que tenemos aquí. ¿Sí? We start with the questions in our Slido. If you do have any spontaneous comments or questions, please raise your hand and we'll get the microphone to you. So this one for Reed Phillips. From your experience, when do systems implement a two-shot or a second shot of PRRS? What are the backgrounds to implement that choice?
I think generally what I've experienced, I'll talk what I've experienced and what I've seen in working with colleagues, like people here on the stage. One situation is what I would call high challenge situation. I'll go backwards a little bit. I don't want to take too much time, but many of these large-scale, long-term PRRS control projects that I talked about earlier this morning, just endemic instability across an entire system, and pretty severe impact in the wean to finish phase of production. And so in those situations of high challenge, and as we're trying to stabilize the breeding herd and wean negative pigs, but we're not quite there yet. We're kind of in a 1B status. Those are where we applied a two-dose program. Okay, maybe the first dose around weaning, and then 3 to 4 weeks later. We did a fair job of documenting that. Years later, I mean, people were still asking about, can we do that? How should I do it? And was fortunate to work with Daniel and his team, and Cesar Mora investigated it further, and really replicated what we did and thought was added benefit. Again, where one dose is very effective. Weaning a negative pig, implementing one dose as best you can 3 to 4 weeks ahead of a challenge works. Okay, but in situations of high challenge and maybe you're weaning pigs from an unstable or a 1B farm where there's a little bit of virus still in the pigs, a little heavier viral challenge early, an early nursery, get a first dose in early, a second dose 3 to 4 weeks later. In those situations, that second dose or a two-dose program had added benefit over a single-dose program. So, full circle, I would say Cesar's paper showed that there was a bioeconomic benefit in stable farms as well as unstable farms, but the biggest dramatic effect, the most significant effect, was a two-dose program in unstable situations, low prevalence situations, that 1B, pig source from 1B status farms, and getting into a high challenge early in the nursery. You don't have the nicest window to get the vaccine in 3 to 4 weeks ahead of wild type exposure. That's where the two-dose program seems to shine the best, and I hope that answered the question.
Anything to add from our panel? I think that was pretty comprehensive. Everybody agrees? Okay.
And one last thing, and then, I'm not going to drop the mic and walk up the stage or anything, but I think part of that, in some of those situations, and Clayton talked about it and others talked about it, in those unstable source situations and where virus is infecting pigs early, people want to get the vaccine into the pig earlier. Clayton mentioned, even if I raise my weaning age, keep the vaccine, at 21 days, because there's virus there at 21 days. And so in some of these situations, they want to vaccinate the pig maybe at processing. And that's vaccination in the face of some maternal immunity. Okay, there's an effect with that. Okay, it doesn't negate the vaccination, but it influences the ability to onset immunity. And so I think that's another situation, I think, where that second dose really helps.
Okay, thank you, Reed. The next question, it's moving. I guess this one's the most popular one from Sylvain. Do you have any data supporting the advantage of repeated MLV doses to a sow herd 3 or 4 times a year versus 1 or 2 doses to gilts with no more repeated doses to sows? So we get this question quite a lot. I don't know. Do you want to answer, Daniel? Perrault? I mean,
I can start, then somebody can follow me.
Okay, go.
But actually, if you just do the gilt vaccination, the immunity in the sows will wane over time. So that immunity they will lose. And we see that sometimes because we have this situation actually in quite some farms where they just do the gilt vaccination, they have the 12-week quarantine, and because you sometimes see a reaction in sows, they don't want to do the regular vaccination of sows. And when they break, we always see the breaks in the older sows. That's where it starts. That's consistent, and that's a very strong proof that they actually lose the immunity, and the older sows are the ones that are breaking first. There is actually supportive data to this also that was done with the PRRS type 1 from ANSES. They did a study with repeated vaccination. And you know, if we look at ELISA antibodies, they tend to disappear. If there's no challenge of the sows over time, they become ELISA negative. But you could see clearly after every vaccination a clear boost in utilizing antibodies and also cellular immunity. So it's a dangerous situation to bring yourself in if you only immunize the gilts, but let the sows lose their immunity.
Any follow-up comments? I think we have learned that the memory T-cell response is important, and restimulating that with continued vaccination seems to be important. So it's not just antibodies, but also that cellular memory T-cell response that is important. Any other?
Just a couple of data points from the POMP project, right? The epidemiological ongoing program in the US. We should do one in Mexico, by the way.
I
right?
think we
Talk
should.
about in China and Spain. Why not here?
Discuss this tonight over
I think
tequila.
there'll be no shortage of PRRS here, unfortunately. So, to your point, right? We see that farms that break with virus, if they didn't see a virus before in the last year or so, whether vaccine or from another outbreak, the break's gonna be, it's gonna take longer to eliminate, and the production impact's gonna be more. So if you keep that immunity in the sow herd, that's gonna help to fight the wild type outbreaks. And the other data point is another study from Cesar Mora was that if you do ongoing vaccinations, or the herd is already stable, it's a 2VX, you're going to vaccinate them frequently over time, maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year. There's no change in productivity after that vaccination. So there's going to be no harm in productivity of the sow herd or the downstream if you vaccinate a 2VX herd, right? The vaccine should be, it's safe. That data was with Ingiovac MLV, so I'm not sure how you can extrapolate that to any other, but it is, we have data to support a safe program.
You know, just maybe one additional, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think the one thing that I would add to what's been said is we can't forget the host dynamics in all this. We talk a lot about PRRS and the virus, but the host dynamics, and there's the one thing that's constant with PRRS is variation, and the host immune response is incredibly dynamic, but it's incredibly variable. You know, if you have, Clayton was talking about 6,000 sow farm, and if you mass vaccinate all 6,000 sows, we would like to think they all behave exactly the same and respond to that immunization exactly the same, and they don't. They don't, and especially in an acute situation. You know, that's why you have to come back and revaccinate in 30 days, and Clay did a really nice job describing that. But over time, immunity is going to wane. Like PH said, it is going to wane, and it's going to be very variable across a large population. And so to maintain, the important thing is to maintain uniform immunity, and that requires repeated vaccination. You're trying to almost draw the tail of the population curve under the bell-shaped curve, yeah. And but it's important, and there's science and evidence behind it.
Quick quiz here to the audience is, after an outbreak, I think it was with Dr. Yaski, he was curious to understand that ELISA dynamics over time. So it was, he collected a ton of oral fluids if in the gestation, and then kept doing that over time. At 6 months, how much do you think it was the seropositivity? So one oral fluid every other sow, so both sow chew on it, right? And then you submit for ELISA, and you do that with 200 ropes or so. Shoot number. 6 months after, what was the ELISA positivity in those ropes? 5%?
5?
25?
25?
50?
This is like an auction, eh, John? You like this? Who's the highest bidder? We have 5?
We have 5, 25, and 50. Any higher or?
So nobody thinks it's 100%, huh?
Huh? 80%?
80%.
So we have all the way from 5 to 80, right? Maybe need more data on that. And again, ELISA just detects the nucleocapsid of the virus, right? There is no evidence that's actually neutralizing antibodies or neutralizing protection, but still it's a measure of immunity that's going down. And the answer was 80% reversed. So 20% was seropositive at 6 months, and then kept going that after almost a year was pretty close to 0. So that immunity does go down. So you gotta be able to keep how do you call it, Reed? Gotta refresh that immunity if you expect a wild type outbreak.
Great, I think, please, por favor, un micrófono para... Aquí al frente.
José Miguel do Porto. Dos preguntas. Una, doble vacunación. En México nosotros vacunamos normalmente al entre los 3 y los 7 días de edad. Bajo esa circunstancia, ¿tú recomendarías revacunar 3 o 4 semanas después o antes?
So the question...
Cuando en el sitio 2 tienes una circulación de PRRS entre la 6ª y la 8ª semana de edad, puede ser sumamente suave o un poco más fuerte, ¿no? O sea, puede variar esta circulación del virus en el sitio 2. ¿Recomendarías acortarla o mantendrías ese programa?
So the question, I'll try and interpret or translate, is that we have a situation where we're vaccinating early around processing.
Yeah.
And we have some instability in the nursery, some clinical disease around 6 to 8 weeks of age.
Yeah.
And we're talking about processing and then 3 to 4 weeks later. Would you change that timing depending on what's in the farm, or are you happy with that? Creo que esa es la pregunta.
Yeah, couple things. I think it could warrant some investigation. What you described is a situation where you have, early nursery circulation, and I don't want to take too much time, but one of my questions might be, are you weaning? Is it a truly a stable farm, or is it a 1B farm, and you're weaning, some prevalence, a low-level prevalence of virus into that nursery, and therefore you're getting, some early exposure to groups as they're weaned into the nursery. Could be in those situations, our experience has been, and documented by some studies, that an early dose followed by a second dose, like the first week post-entry into the nursery, has benefit, or call it added benefit, over a single dose. I would tell you the single dose will work. It's for sure better than not vaccinating. Okay, you'll generate a protective immune response that will be helpful. Could you get added benefit with a second dose in that situation if it's like we just described? I think it could very well be the case, and it might warrant some investigation in your case. Take a look at that. try to ask and answer, you know, where's that virus, am I leaking some virus downstream, causing some of this early nursery exposure and infection? Could be the case. If that's the case, diagnostics can generate that information for you. Then that 2-dose program, early followed by, you know, 1 week in the nursery, it might be worth taking a look at.
La segunda pregunta es, cuando se presenta un brote de enfermedad en un sitio 1, entendí bien que Peyton recomienda que se vacune en ese momento, ¿relato? ¿O más tarde o cuándo? O sea, porque me quedé un poco confuso en esa pregunta.
Clarification question around vaccination of sows in the face of an outbreak. So you presented your case, and he was wondering, could you clarify, would you go right away into vaccinating those sows, or do you wait, and what's waiting and what is acting fast?
Right away.
Yeah.
Right away is what I do. And always reserve the right to be smarter tomorrow. But today, as soon as I know the outbreak is happening, as fast as I can get vaccine to the farm, we vaccinate all the adult animals. I don't vaccinate the piglets, but every gilt in the GDU, every sow, every boar, every gilt in the gestation, all of them vaccinated right away.
Bueno, me queda una duda.
Sí, sí.
Una duda porque en la reunión del año pasado yo expuse que nosotros en México, cuando tenemos un brote, vacunamos inmediatamente al hato. Pero tú nos dijiste que no estabas de acuerdo. ¿Has cambiado tu forma de pensar? ¿O yo no te entendí el año pasado?
So
Hay muchas.
He was referring to piglets, I think, right?
with PRRS, you can always change your mind.
Yeah. I should just say I don't know is the best answer. No say. No, in all honesty, that's not a new part of how I manage the PRRS virus. That piece has been pretty consistent, so I may not have communicated it very well last year, but when I have the outbreak, I go straight to vaccinating very consistently.
But that's a very good point, actually, because I think, to clarify, there are two parts of it. The one is managing the sows and the gilts, and that was your recommendations to start immediately vaccinating sows and gilts. And I think what you're referring to is the piglet vaccination in face of the outbreak, right? Or sows? Okay.
Sows, okay.
Thank you.
Good. We're going to switch briefly to PCV2 just to give us a break from PRRS. There's a question in the chat around the monitoring. This is for you, Marcelo, to start with. What is your best option for monitoring PCV2 in pig flows? How about saliva, oral fluids, and PCR for PCV being a ubiquitous virus? Or do you rely more on processing fluids and serum? What ages should be the focus? La pregunta en español es que están preguntando sobre el mejor método para monitorear PCV2 en las poblaciones, si deberíamos usar cuerdas y fluidos orales o quizás PCR en processing fluids o en suero. Y también qué edades son las claves para tener puntos de monitoreo.
It depends, right?
Because one thing for sure is like there is no one single protocol that's gonna work for every farm. And then the next thing is like don't even start monitoring if you don't know what you're gonna do with those results, and if you don't know how to interpret those the results of that test, right? And with PCV2, because it's endemic and because we're gonna find it, that's the hardest part, right? What am I gonna do with those results, and how I'm going to actually read where is that going to lead me? So you gotta go by specific questions. So for example, if I wanted to answer the question of is there a chance that my pigs are going to be infected in utero, or are they going to be infected by the sow? Is there a chance for vertical transmission? I could choose to do some monitoring on tongue tips of stillborn pigs, or do colostrum samples and test those both by PCR. So that would be a good way to do some monitoring over time to understand if there is virus leakage from the sows to the piglets at some point, either in utero or if there's the potential for the sow to transmit it through the colostrum, right? And then if it's getting to be too much, if you're detecting that and it's concerning levels, you have an action that you can take. You can go ahead and vaccinate those sows.
One clarification, if I may, because the question I think was around processing fluids, and
Yes.
if I remember correctly, Iowa State graduate student looked at this, and processing fluids seemed to reflect too much environmental detection. It was harder than tongue tips or serum or placental umbilical cord to predict true vertical transmission. Am I right there?
Yeah, processing fluids, just as oral fluids, there's a lot of environmental there, especially with PCV2. So it's tricky to interpret. I think I had a slide earlier where processing fluids can be used. It's not like worthless, but it's always to trigger a different action, right? You're never going to take the value of that PCR that you're doing on processing fluids and say, I have a PCV2 problem. You're going to do a more detailed investigation after you find those results. So yeah, processing fluids can be done just as you do it for PRRS. Submit to the lab once a week from as many liters as you want to pull. The less you pull, the more sensitive it's going to be. So it's just about how much you want to be investing in that and how much you're going to be pulling, right? For oral fluids post-weaning, I especially would prefer to actually track those metrics that we had earlier as well here in terms of like how are the pigs looking, are their performance in terms of mortality, culling rate, average daily gain, weight at the packing plant, as uniform as they can be, and also to the standards of your best herds. That is what I would track first, and then if those things are not right, then I would look into doing a diagnostic investigation.
And the follow-up question is the next one in terms of if we detect viremia in those suckling pigs, is that predictive of stability or clinical problems later on downstream? So una pregunta de seguimiento, si detectamos viremia en los lechones que están en la lactación, si esto es una buena herramienta para predecir qué bien o los problemas que va a haber en el engorde o después.
If you're detecting viremia before the pigs are vaccinated, so you're sampling them during lactation and they're getting infected, it all depends on the level as well, right? If you're only finding it till 1% of the pigs, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. 2% of the pigs. Now, if you're seeing like 20, 30% of the pigs positive, then that's again back to what you can do at the sow herd level to prevent those pigs from getting infected at that earlier stage of life. So if it's getting to be too much, I'll take an action to fix that issue, and then you can keep safely vaccinating those pigs after that and not be concerned if viremia is going to be an issue, right? I'll try to fix the problem beforehand. So yeah, fix it. If that's happening too much, gotta fix it.
Any other comments from our panel? I think pretty clear. Thank you, Marcelo.
Just a follow-up question on the processing fluids.
Okay.
So you mentioned the processing fluids, and it's been mentioned today too that sow vaccination, we have an impact, right? So if we go positive, we can turn those negative. So part of this question has to do with, is that the new normal we should be looking for? You know, with the cost of vaccine in sow herds, should a negative processing fluid be the gold standard?
This guy is that Brian.
Can you repeat that again? If processing fluids would be the best sample just to evaluate that?
So if we have processing fluids positive, we're finding some virus on the farm, okay? But we understand that there's environmental there. So if you vaccinate a sow herd, you can turn those processing fluids negative, right?
Yes.
So we have an impact with that vaccination.
Yeah.
So should that be the new gold standard for sow herds as a negative processing fluid, just because of the low cost and everything? Is that eliminating that risk, so to speak, eliminating, but is that reducing that risk of having problems further downstream?
I think if you can have sustainably processing fluids negative, I think that's a good thing. I don't think that even if you do vaccinate often, if you find a PCR positive processing fluids, that's not going to be, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. If you can create conditions that's going to be the case for, 52 weeks, 2 years, however long, that's great. I just wouldn't be as concerned as I would be if we had like a positive PCR on processing fluids. If it's not the same situation. So, and I think there have been some papers by Joaquin Segales trying to do PCV2 elimination from sow farms, which were not, he was not able to achieve that. So I think, again, as the name of the game is keep immunity high, so you can limit that vertical transmission, and then if that's not showing up in the processing fluids, that's great. So if you have that for your system, and it should be the gold standard for everybody, I don't know. It's a good metric to follow for sure.
And perhaps afterwards we can talk with Carmen. She has some of that data from Segales that she can share with you, where there was detection, there was an intervention, and then we monitored the results over time. It's not immediate, right? It's not like you just vaccinate and they go totally negative, but we have a good progression to show you if you're interested. Thank you for the question and the follow-up. This one's a difficult one, so I'm going to pass it to Marius. There is a PRRS vaccine in the Mexican market made from a non-pathogenic strain, inverted commas. What is your opinion of this? Hay una vacuna en el mercado mexicano que está formulada con una cepa no patógena, y la pregunta es ¿qué opinión tenemos? Bueno, en Beringer claramente tenemos una opinión, pero in Beringer we have an opinion, but maybe worth sharing. I have not heard about this vaccine.
Absolutely, and I think the answer will be very short because I don't know about that PRRS strain. If you can provide me some more information, that would be great. So probably.
Has anyone in the panel heard about this product, or?
I don't know about the product, but it's a common question in Asia. We get all the time with I don't know how many vaccines there will be there, but several. And the approach will be ask for the data, and that data is going to be, again, it's not simulation models, it's not work with cells, it's not work with antibodies, it's work on lesions. I want to see that put in the pig model and in the reproductive model. Are you able to reduce the clinical consequences, especially if you could compare with the existing established vaccines? And that can't be just one study, it's got to be several ones. I mean, because it's got to be with several lineages. There's not just one virus out there. So if that vaccine company can provide you with that data to show clinical protection, reproductive model, growing pig model, and several lineages, I think that's the least you can ask for from that company.
But you can clarify, right? Thank you.
Yo no hice la pregunta.
Usted hizo la pregunta. Sí.
Es una vacuna hecha de una cepa recuperada de la naturaleza apatógena. No es un MLB. ¿Ok?
Okay.
Este virus fue recuperado por el doctor Zuckerman at the University of Illinois, y un laboratorio en México la está usando. Bueno, entonces sí hay bastante información en el mercado de estudios y de protección. Personalmente no he visto mucha diferencia entre la MLB y esta vacuna, pero bueno, está en el mercado como tal. Su diferencia en mercadeo es que es una cepa recuperada de la naturaleza apatógena. Okay.
So the product is a Federico Zuckerman collaboration with a local lab. They isolated a non-pathogenic strain in the field and are now using that as a vaccine, and there's some data apparently.
But it's not an MLV, right? It's a killed vaccine?
It's not manipulated in the laboratory with passage or anything like that. It's just taken from the field.
But it's a live vaccine?
It's live, live,
Okay.
Live.
vacuna viva, no?
Viva.
Ah,
It replicates.
International, okay.
okay. Uh-huh.
My fear would be virus is virus, and the viruses change. What we can be sure of with Engelbach plus MLV is that what's in the bottle doesn't change. If you grow a vaccine in the lab or you put it into the field, a lot can happen. So I would be worried about stability. I would be worried about, can it revert to a virulent state if it meets another PRRS? A lot of open questions. I don't know if.
And probably just to add, when we are doing our challenge trials with the MLVs that are available, and now particularly with Engelbach PRRS MLV, after vaccinating those animals, we don't see an impact on such parameters as average daily weight gain. So in terms of safety or lack of negative impact, we also see this with our modified live vaccines.
El micrófono, por favor. The microphone. Y luego cambiamos de tema porque no tenemos mucha información sobre este producto.
Personalmente he utilizado esta vacuna extensivamente. Como mencioné hace un momento, no veo diferencias de alguna ventaja con a virus vivo modificado, pero bajo la misma criterio de evaluación estricta de que cómo funciona, no hemos visto ninguna reversión a patogenicidad ni nada de eso, y la vacuna lleva en el mercado cerca de 4 años, ¿no? Entonces, no hemos visto nada que pueda sugerirnos que produce ese tipo de problemas. De hecho, su mercadeo es que no es capaz de revertir a la... Y vemos toda la información que hay sobre si una MLB se hace pasar varias veces a través de una población, puede revertir a la patogenicidad. Bueno, es una discusión más amplia todavía, ¿no? Pero bueno, está toda la información ahí, ¿no?
Gracias por aclarar. Ok. ¿Más preguntas de la audiencia? ¿No? Voy a seguir con las preguntas. Ahí. Sí, un micrófono, por favor. At the back.
I will change drastically the topic, but this is for Larry. Great insights, by the way. You mentioned a lot of things about leadership, but what's the element that we need to look for when we are recruiting, when we are trying to incorporate people to our team? What do we need to look for?
In terms of bringing them in a leadership role, or just
Yes. What do you look in the people that you want to incorporate to your team? What's a characteristic or the main element that you see that we need to look for in those guys?
Yeah, great question. I apologize that I didn't cover that during the session. That's a wonderful area. I think the thing I would look for is, have they accumulated a following in their current role? Are people naturally attracted to them? The second thing I would do is I would look at what experiences have they had in their current role, and I don't base it on their technical skills, but what experience have they had that would lead me to believe they could be a leader? I think too often I have looked at evaluating people by how successful they are in their technical skills. And I haven't taken into consideration, are those the same skills that are necessary in a leadership role? I want to bring in somebody that has potential, but I also want to have the opportunity to see if they have a track record at all. That's where I mentioned if we have the opportunity to assign that person to a project that especially involves managing people, that maybe involves managing a budget that is a stretch compared to what they currently are doing, maybe in a technical standpoint,
And then I want to see how they do that. And then if there's an opportunity, if there's a person within your team that has leadership and they are called off to another project or they're called away from the site, can that person cover for them? And then get the feedback from the people that reported to them to say, how did they do? And I think it's an incremental thing that what I don't want to do is be in a position where I have to promote somebody or I have to bring somebody in, and I don't have any basis as to what would their potential be to become a leader. Does that make sense? Yep. Be glad to visit with you afterwards also. Thanks.
Very good question. Thanks, Larry. In fact, it's there also. Let's see. I think have we covered this topic? I'm not sure, but we'll jump into it. So another question on diagnostics, probably for Marcelo or our PRRS expert. So when tissues are submitted to the lab and we have a low PRRS CT value, so in the teens, along with PCV2 CT values in the teens, so both a lot of virus in that tissue sample, but then there's no histo lesions in multiple submissions. What would you suggest regarding a rescue PCV2 vaccination? So, ¿está clear? ¿Entienden la pregunta en castellano? Tenemos un caso donde hay una sumisión de tejidos al laboratorio, donde hay altos niveles de PIRS y de PCV2, pero luego, mirando por el microscopio, no hay histopatología, no hay lesiones en varios casos, varias muestras. ¿Qué sugerencia tenemos para si deberíamos usar una revacunación, un rescue vaccine para PCV2?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. The first thing I would do is to talk to your diagnostician to be able to understand those submissions, right? Because if you have submitted multiple times from the same pigs or from different groups, and you're getting those results where they don't make sense, maybe there's something that needs to be changed in the diagnostic approach to see things are aligned, right? Because if you have low CTs for PRRS and low CTs for PCV2 and you don't have lesions of either one, that's something that kind of like it's a weird result. So before taking any action, I would actually try to make sure that I have results that make sense. So whenever we are thinking about the diagnostic process, you start with your question, you input your samples, you get your report. Once you have your report, if things don't make sense, you gotta learn, try to learn from that what you're gonna do for the next one, right? And in this one, we had like successful cases where with the same result, that don't make sense. So we got to change something there to make sure that things align. And then one of the questions that I would have to follow up on this is like, what are actually the pigs telling you, right? Are the pigs healthy or are they truly sick? And if they are sick, what else was found in those submissions that could maybe potentially explain that sickness that could not be PCV2, right? It could be something totally different. So yeah, whoever asked that question, I'd be more than glad to learn more about this case and maybe we can get somewhere.
I think Daniel wanted to add something.
Yeah, no, just one in the 5-step process. There is a page there in the, maybe it's in the step 2? 3?
The constraints, maybe?
Where there's a guide for back to the basics on those necropsy projects and making sure that you're selecting the pigs for diagnostics right, and better if it's the vet that could go to the field and really train people to understand how they're selecting the pigs. Are they representative? Are they acutely infected or just chronic? You gotta select the pigs right. Gotta select the tissues right, Marcelo, right? Yeah. Marcelo can talk more about that, but again, just a plug in that in the 5-step process, the PCV2 version will have a nice 1 or 2 pages of back to the basics on selecting the pigs, selecting the tissues, properly handing those tissues to submit to the lab so that when it arrives to the histopathology slide, reader guru here, then he'll properly be able to write the notes that are representative to the population, right?
Great. Fantastic answer. I want to finish with a question that ties in, I think, a lot of the theme of what we've had today, people plus disease. And I want to ask this question to Dr. Firkin, and maybe Peho too, is there's been a lot of talk about regional eradication today, whether it's the whole country in Denmark or area control. How would you approach getting producers of systems that are in this region to buy in, to participate in this such a program? What would be your leadership approach to achieve this?
My leadership approach on this would be the same for any general situation where I need to get buy-in from numerous people or from individuals. The first comment I would make is it always comes down to what's in it for me, or how does it impact me? And where I have erred in the past is I want to inundate people with data to show them that. And the person that taught me the process believes that you need to spend, of the percentage of time that you have available to make your case, 50% of it should be spent in defining the problem. Because if I don't buy into the problem, I won't care about your data, and I won't care about your solution. So if I was making a presentation for a situation like this, the first thing I would really focus on is, what is the problem? What's at stake, before I ever started talking about what does the data show or what is the solution. I want to, through this process, I want to show the audience that I have the data, but a lot of times I'll put the data in the appendix, that I want to use a key 2 or 3 points, and then I want to be able to refer to the data if that's ever questioned, so that I can show this isn't my opinion, this is the real situation that we've got. So it might be, the appendix might be 17 pages long type thing, and a lot of times I'll be questioned on something, and if I know to look to page 4, that kind of puts the group at a relief of that point, is it isn't just Larry's opinion, we've got the data on it. If I fully define the problem, now the audience or the person I'm dealing with will start thinking about, how does that impact me? Yeah. And if you couch this correctly, you can lead the person to come up with the solutions in their mind before you even say them. And then when you say the solution, it's my understanding the way our brain works is because we already had that thought, it's reinforcing that we were right. When I hear someone else, when I hear Clayton come up with this, and Clayton has effectively led me to this point, my brain does a click whirl that, yeah, that is the solution we need to look at. If I was involved with that particular situation, that's the approach I would take. That would be the brainstorming approach I would take, is to how do we get to this point? We give some key data, we prove that we've got the data and we're willing to go to it, but usually our mind isn't made up based on data, it's made up on how do we view the problem and how do we view the potential solutions. And whoever submitted that question, if you can find me afterwards, I would be more than happy to follow up with you, maybe exchange emails, that I can provide you with that information that I was just sharing that's much more articulate than what I tried to paraphrase with it.
I think veterinarians and scientists, we put the data first typically, right? We are more facts versus telling a story, convincing people through more emotional means rather than facts. So.
And the person that taught me this is a statistician by trade. So he was going against everything.
Really?
But again, I'll share the links if I can just get your information, that he talks about how to build your case to get a decision made. When you've got the data, you just don't lead with the data, because our mind's not a computer. And if I look at a situation and it's got a lot of data, I may get lost with it. And again, I'm gonna refer back to Clayton, but if Clayton has set up the stage then all he's got to do is say, as you will see. And then don't give me the whole amount, give me the key things that my brain can say, yep, I got it, I got it, I got it.
Any comments?
I would like to comment on that. That's actually a little bit linked maybe also to the question that was
The next one.
but that did not come up. So I think it's a good idea to present what's in it for me, because that's in the end what is the basic of it. But it is also to present a trustworthy plan that is actually going to be successful. And this is so you have area eradication programs before that failed, right? And some of the producers that we now are failing to kind of convince that they should go into the program, a lot of them have actually earlier on done elimination in their farm, but failed. And they're not prepared to do that until somebody shows them a good program that they trust will be successful. So they are not, you could say, in general, against it. They just have the approach that I don't need to be the first one. So first you show me that it works, show me that I'm safe when I do it, that I'm not feeling a break again, because they maybe have tried that 1 or 2 times. And that could actually be the same when you talk about area eradication here or in US, saying we have tried this already, but we failed. Some things were not taken into consideration. So before I go into this, you need to show me a plan that is safe and that will not cost me in the end.
Yeah. Build confidence. Yep. Good. We are over time. I hate the fact that we've got a lot of questions unanswered, but that is life, I'm afraid. And I think it's important to stop here. Our speakers will join us this evening. They don't bite. They're very friendly. I would say if you have a question, please approach them with a beer, and they would answer your questions for sure. But I want to take this opportunity to thank our speakers. Please don't leave just yet, because we have a small token of our appreciation for each one of you. And thank you. So Larry, this is not just a very fancy Puerto Vallarta beer holder. It's also got a fantastic shot glass.
Oh, there you go.
Made from by hand in Guadalajara, I believe. So they are, really quite special. And I want to thank you for your help.
My pleasure.
And enjoy.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Marcelo, thank you very much. Trejo, as always, a pleasure. Thank you. Daniel, gracias.
The
Muito
beer is as
obrigado.
cold as my ex is hard.
Marius, thank you.
What does mine say?
Oh no.
No,
Just the
I'm
location.
good. Yeah.
Sorry, Marius. And for you, Reed,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To
all.
hug the
Thank you.
beer,
And
right?
we want to
The
thank
beer bottle.
you. Gracias a vosotros. Merci beaucoup. It's been a fantastic session today. We've had PRRS, we've had PCV2, we've had people, we had problems, and then now we are going to, in fellowship, get together and enjoy a beautiful meal. I hope there will be a lot of pork to help our industry. I feel really honored to be here interacting with you. For me, this is why I love my job. I can hear your problems, we can all share. We've all got scars from our experiences with PRRS and other diseases, and somehow they hurt a little less where you can share with others. So I'm really appreciative for all the insights and your participation. And with that, I want to tell you that we will go for dinner this evening. There's a couple of things, I don't have my clicker, a couple of things if you can, we have a survey on Slido for you to tell us what you think about the program. En Slido hay una oportunidad de decirnos qué os pareció el programa, qué os gustó, qué podemos mejorar. Por favor, hagan las respuestas. Esto nos ayuda mucho para mejorar el programa. And we will go for dinner this evening. First, there's a reception at 6:30 in the Gaviotas area. So as you go out of the building to the right. And at 7, we will sit down for the meal of fellowship. So please be there. Looking forward to it. And I think I haven't forgotten anything, Gonzalo? All clear? The devices, I knew. So please, the translation devices, los dispositivos para traducir, déjenlos por favor en la mesa y ya los recogeremos después. Con que por favor déjenlos aquí. Y muchísimas gracias, nos vemos en la cena, recepción a las 6:30 y a las 7 cenamos juntos, ¿vale? Muchísimas gracias.